Some 127,000 Russian troops now massed along Ukraine's borders, as Russian President Vladimir Putin tells the world his demands, including a promise Ukraine will never join the NATO alliance, have not been met. U.S. lawmakers are now preparing a range of sanctions to deter conflict in Europe.
There's certainly no interest in escalating this situation into any military conflict. We are hopeful this can be dealt with on a multilateral basis, diplomatically. I think this is absolutely possible, and I'm hopeful that President Biden will be able to do that successfully.
Congressional Republicans have criticized the Biden administration for not moving quickly to deter Putin.
Sanctions after the incursion are less effective than sanctions before. And I hope the administration will bear that in mind as they move forward. They have a lot of latitude on their own.
But in a rare show of unity on Capitol Hill, lawmakers from both parties are moving forward on bipartisan sanctions legislation that would severely impact Putin's economic options.
He'd have to get his oil sold like Saddam Hussein sold his oil, on the black market. I mean, that would be his only way to get oil out because he can't do a bank transaction. That's probably the most devastating of the sanctions. Anti-tank, anti-armor, lethal stuff. That's going to be video images that the Russian people are going to see. They're going to have to ask themselves, is that something they want?
Democrats want to reserve one of the most severe sanctions for use only if Putin goes into Ukraine.
Should Mr. Putin invade, that Nord Stream 2 pipeline is not going to go through and, probably never will come to completion. And that's going to have a huge economic impact on Russia. We will also probably implement with broad bipartisan support the biggest set of sanctions that we ever have. Now, none of us wants to do that because we understand that impacts the Russian people. But this is an elective choice that Mr. Putin is making.
Members of Congress who recently traveled to Ukraine and met with officials say American aid will arm the Ukrainians facing the Russian threat. They also found unity among America's allies.
What struck me is, and I'm sure this is an unintended consequence of Putin's aggression, what struck me is the unity. That as we went to Brussels first and met with our EU counterparts and members of NATO leadership, how united we all were in standing against this type of aggression and in favor of a democratic nation fighting for freedom.
The United States has announced it will soon send 2,000 troops to Romania, Poland, and Germany. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.